Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our regular council meeting for Wednesday, June 19th. I'll call this meeting back to order, and once again, Councillor Keogh and Councillor Nerda are not available to be with us here this evening. Call the meeting to order, and we will start with the Quarter Revision. Serving on the Quarter Revision is myself, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, and Councillor Daigle. So, Joanne, if you'd like to start.
Sure. Mayor and members of the court, in front of you is the report for the Quarter Revision for the Lockhart Drain A and D. And the responsibility of the court is to hear assessment and appeals from the property owners. No appeals have been received. So the proposed motion and staff recommendation is that the court confirm the assessments scheduled as detailed in the RDOB and Engineering Incorporated report dated April 16th, 2024 for the Lockhart Drain A and D, and that a motion be made to accept the assessments.
Thank you. Do you have anything you'd like to add at this time?
Through the chair, yeah, I'll just give a brief overview of the assessments and then make myself available for any questions or comments. So the Lockhart Drain A and D report has been assessed in the following manner. The increased cost caused by the existence of the road or public utility has been assessed to the road or public utility as a special benefit assessment. The replacement of the culverts have been assessed with the cost to provide a standard 8-meter top width, assessed with 50% applied as a benefit assessment and 50% as an outlet assessment to upstream lands and roads based on equivalent hectares. The additional cost for a wider culvert has been assessed to the requesting property owner. The cost to remove a secondary access has been assessed to the property as a special benefit assessment. The additional cost to provide a drainage coefficient above the 1.5 inches, so 38 millimeters per 24 hours, has been assessed as a special benefit to the requesting properties. The remaining cost of the drainage works has been assessed with 50% applied as a benefit assessment, and the remainder assessed as an outlet assessment to upstream lands and roads based on equivalent hectares. I'm available for any comments or questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Daigle, go ahead. Oh, you have no questions? Do you have any questions, Deputy Mayor Hodgins? Okay, I do have one just before we make the motion. That is, you talked about the standard cover on the culvert is 8 meters.
Through the chair, that is correct. Yep.
Okay, so the county has a 9-meter standard coverage. Is the 8 meters ours, like our North Middlesex guidelines, or what guidelines are we following?
Yep, through the chair. So that's a guideline that we utilize. It's not specific to North Middlesex. That's the way we assess culverts.
Okay, thank you. Once again, sorry. Were you moving the? I will move it. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carry. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Joanne. At this time, disclosure of pecuniary interest. If anyone has any, please forward it through to the clerk. Minutes of the previous meeting, and that is for the June 5th. Go ahead.
Your Worship, we should have some resolutions to end the Quarter Revision and to resume regular meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do need a motion made by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carried. Thank you. Now the minutes of the previous meeting from June 5th. Any errors or omissions, business arising from it? Seeing none, motion to Councillor Daigle, second by Councillor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And delegation. And I believe we have Aqua delegation here, and we have someone coming online. And it's Vladimir. Rod, are you coming up as well, or are you in a... You should have somebody in person that we can scowl at. Thank you, Rod. Are you going to do an introduction to Vladimir?
Sure. Your Worship, members of council, this is Vladimir Marinich. He's with Terra Clean Water Agency. He is our energy specialist. He's been with Agua for over 10 years that I'm aware of. I'm sure I've worked with him longer than that, but he's been working with us over a number of projects over the years. So I'm happy to have him work as our specialist, especially when it pertains to water and wastewater facilities. So Vlad has done a presentation or does some work on the CDM plan. So he's going to do a presentation for you all tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, Vladimir. We can't hear you. We can't hear you yet. Can you, we don't have you yet. Can you turn up your volume or?
Can you guys hear me now?
We sure can now.
Thank
Yes.
you so much. Sorry.
Okay.
I apologize for that. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Rodney, for introducing me. I'm an energy specialist with Aqua. I'll be presenting this brief presentation of resolution to pass the motion to accept the conservation demand management plan for the municipality of North Middlesex. Would you like me to share the screen, or will it? Thank you.
Yeah, we've got it.
Can you go to the next slide, please? Once you closed all the additional tabs. So I wanted to provide a summary of what drives the conservation demand management framework within the province of Ontario. It falls under regulation of 2523. And under this regulation, all of broader public service organizations, including municipalities such as North Middlesex, service boards, and townships, are required to report annually on the energy use and greenhouse gas emissions. Typically, this is done through a portfolio manager. However, this act also has a portion that retains conservation demand management plans that have to be updated on 5-year periods. And 2024 is one of those periods with the deadline of July 1st. Next slide, please. The objectives of the plan is to allow the energy management to be incorporated in all of the municipal activities, including organizational, as well as the human resource procedures, procurement practices, investment decisions, and facility capital operations and maintenance. Second is to create a culture of energy conservation within North Middlesex to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to ensure the effective use of its resources. Third is to demonstrate leadership within the North Middlesex and the community as the commitment to energy management and investigation of the new and emerging technologies and how North Middlesex can take advantage of them and be a leader in energy conservation and greenhouse gas reductions. Fourth, strive to reduce energy consumption through efficient use of resources while still maintaining an effective level of service, which falls within effective governance under the strategic municipal plan. And fifth is to create a foundational program for continuous energy improvements and lay a plan forward and how a municipality can achieve it. Next slide, please. So the facilities of the North Middlesex that fall under this regulation subsequently fall into 5 different areas: water and wastewater, civil administration, recreation and wellness, public works, fire department, and streetlights. Again, these are not prescribed, but this is how the North Middlesex falls in terms of categorizing its facilities. There's a total of 26, and all of these are being reported through the new portfolio manager system, formerly known as the broader public service system. And it is provided by the province of Ontario. Next slide, please. I apologize for the small font of this slide, but the main takeaway from this is that to identify the biggest energy consumers, or electricity consumers in this case, within the municipality as not just the lowest hanging fruit, but the facilities that will provide you with the highest amount of energy reduction. So it's much easier to target the facilities that are consuming the most in the first place. And as Rodney have pointed out, Aqua has been working very closely with Jaden and Brandon to try to improve the energy consumption or reduce the energy consumption at Elza Craig sewage waste treatment plant, as it is one of the highest energy consumers within the municipality for the regulation 2523. Next slide, please. Natural gas consumption. It's a little bit different in terms of the makeup when comparing to the electricity consumption, where the North Middlesex arena consumes the most. But the same logic applies, where the key takeaway of this graphic is to highlight the highest consumers within municipality and to target them as the primary areas of energy conservation and greenhouse gas emission reduction activities. Next slide, please. For the propane consumption, there is only 2 facilities out of the 26 that fall within this category, primarily being McGillivray Works Department and Leary Water Shop. And again, McGillivray Public Works Department consumes the majority of it. Next slide, please. So for the results and highlights since the last update, which has been conducted in the year 2019, the North Middlesex is still working to meet its conservation objectives from the 2019 plan to achieve the energy reduction within this. The energy reductions within the system are fairly significant given how the years have gone. In total, the electricity consumption has been reduced by 4.5% from the baseline period. The natural gas consumption was reduced by 13%, and the propane usage has increased by 43% by 2022 when comparing against the baseline year of 2017. The primary items that have contributed to the biggest reductions of 18% was the wastewater plant had undergone multiple changes across the processes, including technical projects and operational efforts, as well as exploration of innovative, not yet available on the market aeration technologies to offset dissolved oxygen requirements. And this has gone with participation from support services of Aqua, not just operations and management, operation and maintenance. Another one is a 25% reduction of municipal office in natural gas usage, which can be attributed to implementation of various behavioral changes, as well as the equipment upgrades over the years. Next slide, please. For the current plan, some objectives have to be laid out to be considered, but they don't change much from the previous plan, just to retain some of hierarchical and consistency between the years, but they have been updated from the last time. So one of them is the improvement of North Middlesex understanding of energy consumption. Again, energy audits have been completed at some of the facilities, which provided additional understanding, but that can be expanded upon. Second one is the increased staff awareness and motivate staff to use energy more efficiently. I believe that there will be additional items provided, such as posters, where there's no automatic dimming switches or automation can be implemented. Report energy performance changes is the third point, and improvements annually. This is being done consistently through the BPS portfolio manager, forcing basically all of the municipalities' water boards and service boards to report on it and review it as a result. Fourth is the improve the energy efficiency through the use of low-cost opportunities by implementing the following: sound operating and maintenance practices, employee training and staff awareness, monitoring and tracking, and energy demand management program, which is this plan is a part of. Next slide, please. For the 2025-2029 years of this current update, when the municipality will strive to reduce energy consumption and electricity and natural gas, as well as the propane. But I chose to exclude it from this one because there's only 2 facilities using it. So mostly targeting electricity and natural gas by 5% by the end of 2029 from the baseline year of 2017, effectively incrementally improving the energy consumption reduction from the results of the year 2022. And this energy reduction will apply to all the departments and facilities owned by the municipality. However, it's an aggregate of the entire municipality that is presented as the total. Next slide, please. So for the strategy of 2025 to 2029 plan, the municipality intends to begin utilizing NRCan ISO 50001 4-step plan to check the NAC management methodology in relation to conservation demand management. And a more detailed version of this will be available within the plan itself. First one is the plan established energy conservation objectives and processes necessary to deliver the results in accordance with the expected outcomes, the energy conservation targets or goals. Start on small scale to test possible effects of the financial feasibility. Develop an energy conservation demand management plan, prioritizing budgets, resources, and timelines. Do, which is the implementation of plan and collecting the data for analysis of the following checked and act steps. Develop project designs and execution, preparing status reports and implementing a communication strategy. Check, which is the study of the actual results, measurement and collection, and do above, and compare against the expected result targets and goals from the plan phase of this approach to ascertain any differences. Evaluate any deviation in the implementation from the plan, and also evaluate the appropriateness and completeness of the plan to enable the execution of the do part. And lastly, act is to recommend improvements and adjustments to the initial plan, determine the course of the corrections and the modifications to the plan. And as I had mentioned, this approach is covered extensively with additional sub-steps within the plan itself that will be available for viewing, and I believe it is attached to the current agenda from the slot from 6 to 7 p.m. For the recommendations from the plan update, we would like the endorsement and support and adoption of the updated CDM plan. We would like to continue to develop and evolve the conservation demand management energy management team. Revised plan is required based on analysis, energy assessments, and energy consumption trends. This is an ongoing effort, and again, plan can be adjusted at any time, typically with major changes and updates every 5 years. And implement energy efficiency measures stated in the plan. And lastly, revisit the energy assessment towards the end of the 4th year period to facilitate a new planning process in the next stage. So effectiveness of the projects. If there's a repeatable projects, particularly, how well will they work for multiple facilities rather than just testing them on one? Next slide, please. And I believe this is the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, please go ahead.
Thank you, Vladimir. Questions from council? Questions, comments? Councilor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. On slide 5, you show electricity consumption. My question is this gross electricity consumption? Do we net out electricity that we generate? For example, that we have an array of solar panels on the roof of the Elster Craig Rec Center. Do we net that out of this to show that we're actually producing electricity, or is this just gross consumption? And should we be netting those? And should we be netting out the solar electricity that we're generating from the total? Because we are generating electricity, so we are actually feeding in to the grid. And should we not be netting that out of our total gross consumption?
I don't know the exact setup, if I may answer, of how the electricity is being utilized at the rec center and being fed back into the grid. Typically, the solar installation systems are set up as an offset, meaning that they don't feed past the meter unless they have separate metering requirements. But as typically prohibitively expensive, but I am not exactly familiar with that facility in terms of renewable energy generation being fed back into the grid.
I think we can ask Brandon to clarify that one.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Irwin, all of our solar panels currently are leased through a company. We don't get reports on their consumption, I don't believe. So we would have to go to that company, that third-party provider, and ask them for those numbers. This is just strictly what we're consuming and how we can lower based on regulations set out by the province.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Irwin.
Well, I'm not really in depth acquainted with this regulation 2523, but my sense is if we're producing electricity, then we should be netting that out of our gross and helping us move towards our target. And I'm wondering if that's something that we should be investing.
We can certainly look further into that. The argument could also be made that we're just giving them the space and that company is actually the one producing the electricity. We are not. We're just giving them the space to do so. That may be how it's viewed, but we'll certainly investigate further.
Okay. It would be worth investigating because there are facilities on ground as well. In Brownfield.
And I'll just a little bit further. It is regulated. We do have to have this plan as being part of the broader public sector. Every year we do report our energy annually to the province. So our current plan expires at the end of this month, which is why the plan is coming through now. We've asked Aqua for our help on this because our major consumer is the wastewater treatment plant, which is where their expertise comes in to help us reduce that footprint.
Thank you, Mayor Roth. I'm not trying to slow this down. I know it's got to go in by July 1st. I just think going forward, we need to clarify a few things. We talked about the Park Hill Library here. It should be the Carnegie Library because Park Hill Library is actually part of this.
Okay.
There's a few others though. We don't show the Elsa Craig street lights. They should be in here. Just those kind of issues.
Okay, Brandon, go ahead.
Through Mr. Mayor to the Councillor Daigle. Certainly the naming of things is based off what they were entered into the government system as. So the government currently monitors all of the facilities that we report energy on. When those first go into the broader public sector reporting, they're identified by name. So back when this started, Park Hill Library would have been the name of that facility. They would have called it the Park Hill Library, whoever entered it, and that's just what the province has tracked this on. So they are tracking that facility based on that. In order to update those, it would actually be going in and modifying things on the broader public sector website, which is why in the report we've just left it as they've always been called for comparing across timelines.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I could go along with that, but then we're still missing some like the old town hall.
There are certain ones that are missing. Certainly the old town hall, we do not see those electricity bills. It's leased out, so we've never reported them. They would have to be added to our profile and reported on that. Elsa Craig streetlights is one we can look into. The Elsa Craig water tower was also left off just because it's just come online recently and we haven't actually reported it to the province yet as an energy. So once those are reported in future plans, you will see that. It's not to say that we can't work on those in this plan, but they're just currently not identified through that broader public sector.
Okay. Councillor Irwin, and then Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I gather we're asked to approve this process this evening. Aqua is acting as a consultant with us on this, I gather. What is that costing us?
Has Jaden got that? Or who's got it?
Yep, through your worship. I believe the proposal that Aqua prepared, the total cost of the services was 9,700 plus HST. No, that's the cost of this whole process of developing the plan.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on slide 8 here on that presentation, just result highlights since last update. Couple comments. Let's just start with 18% and 25% that dropped in the wastewater plant, and 25% municipal office saw a reduction. First question, is this municipal office? I'm assuming that's library too. Okay. Another one, going back to the little red line at the top, good to see reduced electrical consumption by 4.5. Natural gas was reduced by 13, but propane has increased by 43%. Particularly why?
So through the mayor to the deputy mayor, when I started reporting energy for us, one thing that I noticed was Lurie was never reported in the past for propane. So when I started reporting it, which would have been 2019 when I started my position, it would have always just been McGilvery's works yard that reported propane. So when I start reporting those propane numbers, you're going to see the increase overall. It's always been there, was just never previously reported.
Okay. Councilor Canellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I read this report with a great deal of interest. I found it very interesting. But my question for you is this specific to facilities, or does this include all aspects of energy consumption? Because I noticed that vehicles were not included.
Brandon?
Through the mayor to Councillor Cornelison, it is just facilities. That's all that the regulation requires us to report. So when we go to our reporting portal, they strictly want to see your facilities, pumping stations, basically physical structure. That's what they're.
The other thing I noticed was that they said equipment upgrades in this particular structure here, which we built in 2014, I think it was. So has there been that much difference in the upgrades for this particular building in the few years that it's been here?
I would say that there hasn't been anything significant to this facility, other than, just trying to make sure that in the off hours we're bringing our temperature setbacks back on our HVAC units, those type of practices, rather than physical upgrades themselves.
Brandon, was there also some automatic lights put in afterwards as well, like instead of bathroom lights being left on?
Through the mayor to the mayor, I'm not 100% sure on that. Since I've been in my position, they've always been automatic, but certainly they may have added that after.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from council? Seeing none, I do have one on wastewater treatment plant in Else Craig. We have a gas line still sitting at the gateway there. And I'm wondering if part of this process is the changing of some of that operation from electric to gas. Go ahead. Go ahead. Dave. I'm looking at you. Yeah, go ahead.
Over the top discussion.
Yeah.
Through you, your worship. Yeah, we had looked at that, and I recall that was brought up at a previous meeting, and something we did want to make sure that was when we were rehabilitating that roof on the plant, we wanted to make sure that, it's not going to affect the future possibility of converting to natural gas, because right now the building is heated with electricity. We have talked with Aqua a little bit about this, with Rod locally and with Vlad. I know we also brought a report back to council about some other energy improvements that we're looking at for the plant. And maybe we can touch on those as well, but maybe I'll just open it up to maybe Rod and Vlad if they want to speak about sort of the discussions we've had about gas conversion and looking into that, where we can possibly go from here.
Okay. Do you want to go first, Vlad, or do you want me to go first?
For the gas conversion, I would appreciate if you guys go first. It's been a number of months.
Okay, go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest ones was when we were looking at the gas conversion was the weight of the gas units that would be able to, if we were to install those, if the roof could support those new gas units. So that's something that we've been looking at, but we're not quite there just yet. Those would be probably the biggest gas consumption units that we have is for those rooftop units at the Elsie Craig plant. One of the things that we're looking at though is for that HVAC system, that rooftop units is actually variable frequency drives on the supply fan and the exhaust fan, because those units run at 100% all the time. So that's 365 days a year, 24/7. So that's going to, right now, that was probably represents 43% of your energy consumption right now at that plant. So if we can look at installing those VFDs, we're going to see a significant cost reduction. Then we were looking at adding on to make that funded through any type of funding that the government can support us on. We didn't quite meet that mark, so we were looking at aeration blowers. So those aeration blowers run, again, 365 days a year, 24/7, and they go up and down, based on the need to meet a solved oxygen requirement. So there's great technology out there today, and we've got some blowers that we're looking at installing to meet that funding requirement. So when we did that energy audit, those blowers represented, I believe, 17% of the hydro cost of that plant. So just between those two items, we're looking at reducing your cost significantly. I don't have a number off the top of my head right now, but it was a good reduction that maybe we could look at what that gas scenario could do for us, if it is worth converting those rooftops or something that we could convert. But right now, our focus has been just right on electricity and seeing if we can reduce that cost at that plant with this proposal that we're going to be submitting here shortly. Probably, hopefully by the fall, when it comes to budget approval, capital approval, submit that and look for approval.
Okay, thank you, because that's what I was getting at. I know it's not in the budget now to do that, but for us to have it in the budget process, some options, that would be great.
Yeah, it's a good considerable amount of energy reduction that we're looking at doing for that facility. That's been a long time overdue since I started here as well.
Agreed. I know we've spent $60,000 to put that line to the gate at that time, and it seems to not be able to use it.
Yeah,
It doesn't make sense, but we do look forward to hearing that report in the future. Any other questions on this report? Seeing none, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Councillor, they were all looking at you. Councillor Irwin, all in favor? Carry. Thank you. Thanks, Vladimir. Thank you.
right. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks, Rob.
councilors.
Department reports, and the first one is Director of Fire and Emergency Services, Greg Van Hoevel, and we're looking forward to this report.
Your worship, members of council, what you have in front of you is a recommendation that we move forward with the fire protection agreement for the southwest portion of the municipality that had previously been covered through prior agreement with Lambton Shores, the Arkona station. We have some new terms here, and I recommend that we move forward with that.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councilor Pinelson?
Thank you. Greg, I have a couple of questions for you. Specifically, item 3C, under the agreement, once the North Middlesex Fire Department has arrived at the scene, the Lambton Shores Fire and Emergency Services shall release command of the scene to the home department. The Lambton Shores Fire and Emergency Services shall continue to assist at the scene if requested, either through this agreement or through a declaration of mutual aid. If it's through mutual aid, will the fees still apply to the vehicles that they are sending?
Through your worship to the councillor, no. Once we ask for mutual aid, it is mutually provided.
Okay, so then the fees on the trucks then discontinue at that point.
That is my understanding.
Okay. The other question I have is items 14 and 15 on indemnity. I don't quite understand that. Can you explain that to me a little bit better? Because it seems to me, and I guess my question is that if one of their firefighters is injured or there's damage done to the truck while providing service in our specific area, are we then responsible for those costs incurred and workers' comp and all that?
Again, through your worship, I cannot answer that. This is the standard agreement that was provided by Lambton Shores to other municipalities. I didn't have any question when I read that, so I don't know. I can follow up on that. Get back to you.
Yeah, I think like in terms of liability, I think it'd be helpful. My final question for you is, given that there's a fee for the trucks and the services that they provide, are we then able to emulate or take a page from Fire Marquee and build the insurers company to recover some of those costs? Are you able to do that, to invoice them?
We have not been, we've got no process for,
But you could initiate that process.
don't know.
Is it for housing are you talking about, or just?
Well,
for vehicle?
Were you here when Fire Marquee made the presentation?
Here.
Okay, well, okay, but you're familiar with Fire Marquee, and they recover costs. We declined for them to do that, the university across our municipality, because we feel that the ratepayer is already paying for fire service. But in this particular case, there's additional cost associated with fire service because they're at $550 per vehicle per hour. So my question is, can those costs be billed out to, say, the homeowner's insurance company to recover some of those costs?
If I may, your worship, wouldn't be something you would normally do for a ratepayer within your own municipality. The only time I see that happening is when you're providing service to someone out that is not a ratepayer. So in this case, that ratepayer is paying in their property taxes to provide fire services. The fact that we chose to go outside of our fire department to provide those services was our choice. I wouldn't recommend charging a ratepayer within our municipality for that. Often you use Fire Marquee, or you go after costs for things like an accident within our municipality of a residence from somewhere else, and we charge their insurance.
Well, Fire Marquee provides a service at a
Yeah,
30%
they can-
cost. We don't
well-
necessarily need to engage them. We can do it on our own if we choose to. So my
But
question
no-
is, are we choosing to do that in this particular case for these fees?
I would recommend against that, but that would be a council decision because it is a resident of our community on property within our municipality. I wouldn't recommend that, but certainly council.
Whether you've answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Daigle.
Just a little further on that point. I think it's been said that if they respond first, our department's still going and gonna call them off when they get there. So the most we're gonna get charged for is the initial hour. So it should never go above 500, whatever we said, 559.86 an hour for the number of trucks for one hour.
Well, it could conceivably be $1,500 if it's on 3 vehicles, right? Right. Well, that's my question.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so are we gonna follow up on the indemnity ones, the 14 and 15? Are you gonna follow up, report back to that?
Yes, sir, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'll comment to the chief. I congratulate you for getting this done. Also for getting, I know the initial time, it was a shorter time frame, the contract. I'm glad to see that expanded out, so we're not doing this all the time. More continuity to this. And hopefully that before we get near the end of it, we're negotiating and making sure we carry on this service. Because I think the worst thing we can do is to put it in place and then take it out again. And I know what happened at that time, but congratulations to you for getting that done into the committee.
Thanks.
We have a recommendation in front of us. And the recommendation is the council accept this report and endorse the fire protection agreement with Lambton Shores. Mover, Deputy Mayor Hodgins. Seconder? Councillor Daigle. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Our next one is a report from Director of Community Services, Brandon Drew. And I think your first one is on the youth advisory.
Mayor Ropp, members of council, as discussed last council meeting, this report is to formally introduce a youth advisory committee to our committees of council. The report outlines the structure of the committee, and the terms of reference will be in front of you. As you can see, there is a 1-year term for all members. The membership is from ages 9 to 17 years old. There was some good discussion at the local school advisory committee on this. I did take some of their feedback into it and trying to get this out to the school before they go off for summer break. Yeah, so if there's any questions from council on this report.
Questions from council? Councilor Irwin?
Thank you, your worship. Through you, I'm trying to remember, we want to get this started by September, if that's correct.
That is correct. That is the timeline we are looking for. However, if the school cannot get the correspondence out to the students prior to the end of this school year, we will try and get it out at the start of September and implement it early fall.
Any other questions? No other questions. We have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councilor Irwin, seconded by Councilor Nelson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. The next one is a renewal of the agreements for the rugby club and the Lions Club, the maintenance agreement.
So Mayor Ropp, members of council, the first agreement on the list is the rugby agreement. This is our standard agreement with all our minor sport clubs. It outlines their terms of use, similar to minor baseball and minor soccer, just at a different property. And it outlines their fee structure, which is the minor sport fee. So if there's any questions on that.
Questions? Councilor Nelson?
What age group is this rugby club, Brandon?
So currently they're about 7 to 11 is the age. They are hoping that the program grows so they can get more older participants, but I know a lot of what happens out there right now is U9 and U11. Those are primary. They did just submit us their number of participants today. They have 82 members, and that's their inaugural year. So we're hoping that they can grow on that.
So are the 82 members, are they local?
So they range anywhere. They call themselves London Middlesex. So it could be anywhere from outskirts of London, Grand Bend, surrounding area, but this is the central location. I do know that I have heard from a couple residents that kids have joined the program and they're enjoying it so far.
Great, excellent. Thank you.
So Brandon, are they out there playing now?
Yes, we do have a schedule and hopefully we can get that schedule on our website.
That'd be
So-
great. I'd like to. So that's an impressive number actually to start. Any other questions on this? No other questions. We have a recommendation. Oh, sorry, Brandon.
I will speak to the Lions Club agreement as well because it's in
Oh,
the
okay,
same.
sorry.
So this one is just the renewal of their maintenance agreement for the Lions Park. They're in consultation with them. They are very happy with the current agreement. We're very happy with how it works. So we're just renewing it for another 5 years. No changes.
I'm glad to hear that. That's nice. Any questions on that one? Moved by Councilor Daigle, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. All in favor? Carried. All right, the next one is a report from our Director of Economic Development on the development strategy up.
Mayor and members of council, just wanted to ask that you receive the report that Melora Murray Consulting be awarded the contract to update the North Middlesex Economic Development Strategy. Melora Murray Consulting were involved with the strategy that we originally did back in 2015, and we felt that of the 2 proposals that were received for the 8 firms that were contacted with the RFP, that they delivered the best value through their experience and background with our municipality.
Questions? Councilor Daigle?
Your report states that we had 2 submissions out of the 8.
Yeah.
But we only hear about 1. Can we know the other company name and maybe what they came in at?
Yep.
Why our decision was made?
Sure. The other company was Sequence, and their proposal was 28.5, which was a few percentage difference in cost versus Melora Murray. And we felt that with Melora Murray's experience and the fact that they had already worked on our strategy before, that was definitely the best value in comparison. And in specifically their experience with strategic planning and analysis, and the one partner's focus on investment attraction.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Nelson?
Thank you. Natalie, I read this with a great deal of interest. What are the outcomes that you're hoping to achieve through this process? What are you looking for the recommendations or strategy to focus on in recommending?
Well, the focus will be determined through the data that they collected and analyzed, and then also through community input. So that will identify the changes that the municipality has undergone since the previous strategy was done. And then that will give us an action plan, which will identify what are our next steps to develop the best economic development strategy that we can.
One of the things that I found of interest is that given the size of the agricultural industry in North Middlesex, there really isn't a great deal of agricultural businesses other than grain elevators in North Middlesex. So there's not really any equipment sales or maintenance service industries in North Middlesex, is there?
Well, that's a great point. I think that the benefit of doing this strategy right now will highlight how our municipality compares to the region and within the county and other municipalities. So once we collect that data and reach out to those businesses, we'll have a better idea of how big their businesses actually are. We do know that the bulk of the people that are employment providers in our community are entrepreneurs and small businesses. So sometimes it's hard to identify who those companies are and what kind of business they're doing until we reach out to them. And that will be a really big part of this strategy, is to be connecting with those businesses to find out more about their challenges and what opportunities there are out there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No other questions. We have a recommendation. Moved by Councilor Canellison, seconded by Councilor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our next one is a report from our CAO on the Canada.
Thank you, Worship. The renewal in front of you is just that, a renewal for the funding agreement with the Canada Community Building Fund. It's already incorporated within our budget for this year. It's just a renewal of the agreement.
Questions? Seeing no questions, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councilor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Committee reports. Is there any committees here? There's no agendas here. Any committee wish to report?
I do. I have a comment I'd like to make, and I'd like to get some feedback from members of council, if I may. Tomorrow at the Conservation Authority, we will be discussing the levy increase to fund their asset management plan strategy, which will increase $20,000 per year for the next 10 years, reaching a total of $200,000 per year in additional levy fees. I'm just wondering how council feels about that being downloaded onto the municipalities when we discuss this tomorrow.
Comments? Councilor Irwin.
What percentage of that is our municipality's responsibility?
I believe we're around 12%. So in 10 years, 12% of 200,000.
Yeah. So what options, do we have any say in this? Because I know that in our regular levies that we pay, they just send it to us, we have to pay them. Is this the same?
Well, that's where it's at right now, but I wanted to argue it tomorrow, just depending on how members of council feel about it. I don't know, my other member of the board here has any views on it, but I questioned about why could they not increase their fees to raise the funds for the asset management plan. I never got a response from them. It seems to me that they're downloading the asset management costs to the municipalities rather than taking ownership of themselves.
Okay. Comments? I would like to know if it is mandated this way, or if it's just, that's the way they figured to do it. You know, it's just an optional deal.
If I recall correctly, I believe the other conservation authorities have done this, I believe, is what the comment I heard at the time. But I will ask again tomorrow, you know, if there are other revenues possible. And also, does municipality have the option to opt out? Which I doubt it, but I'm going to ask anyway.
I'm not sure I'd be ready to opt out of it. I don't think I would really stand behind that part of it, but Counselor Daigle.
Another option, maybe ask them if they, even if they had split it, they raise half of it, we raise half. Like,
Okay. Any other committees wanting to report? Counselor Irwin.
In absence of the chair of Economic Development, the committee meets tomorrow evening. And part of it will be discussion of the plan just approved and putting some logistics behind it.
Okay. Any other committees? Seeing none. Correspondence, and the first one, Brandon, do you want to speak to this?
So Mayor Rott, members of council, currently not having an agreement with the school board to outline multiple things in terms of reciprocal use. We currently have nothing in place for groups like the North Middlesex Prom Committee that's part of the high school. They rented tables and chairs for us in order to have their prom. So because we don't have anything in place, we did charge them for it. They have written a letter asking for those fees to be waived. The recommendation from me would be to waive those fees as they needed them in order to have their prom. And there was one table broken during that, and reached out and asked for the price of the table as they are wanting to pay for that, but they would like to waive the rest of the fee. So currently there's basically a credit sitting, or not a credit, an amount sitting there that they will owe. If council's wishes to waive these fees, we will reduce that to $0.
Counselor Daigle. You're
I'll
making
make
that a
that
motion? Is there a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodges. All in favor? Carry. Okay. Other correspondence, the resume assessment cycle, municipality of Hollander. Counselor Irwin.
I move we support this, Your Worship. I would like to see our assessment cycles be reinstated after, I don't know how many years, but a long time, right? 2016? Yes.
Your motion to support. Seconder to support it. Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carried. Asset retirement obligations, the Township of Larder Lake. Receive and file. Other and urgent business. Counselor Daigle, and then Deputy Mayor Hodgins.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to see if we could get a staff report on what we talked about earlier tonight, the electric, what do you call it, the solar panels. Just because they went in before this council, but what are we supposed to get out of it? What are we getting out? Who's getting what from the generation of that hydro? Just so we're aware of where money's going and what's going on.
No, but a report, you're asking for a staff report, direction, staff report. And council agree with, I don't think we need a motion, just direction, right, to put a report? Yes, they all said, council said yes to a report. We can get a staff report when you get a chance to do that. And, but I can tell you it's not very big. We're not getting a lot out of it. I don't think over the course of the years, I don't think we'll get enough to pay for the holes in the roof at the arena.
Well, that's why I'm wondering, and how long is this period that we've got these things as a weight on our buildings?
Okay. That'll be part of the report, I'm sure. Any other, okay. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, you had an item?
Just one more question. I jingled my bell thinking to Brandon. Just remembered a little bit, couple questions I'd asked about for when you brought up the Lions Club parking out to Craig. I believe last year through the library services, they put a bunch of things around. Do they still exist and what's going on with them this year? It's more than just there. Every park in every municipality had it. I'm just curious if it's still ongoing.
Yep, through the mayor to the deputy mayor, that is the story, they call it the storyboard walk. So they do have it at every municipality and they still are actively creating stories to put up. The 4 this year, usually they come probably just last week they would have set it up, and then they'll do their socials blast, which we'll share, and then they have 4 different stories that they share. So they still currently do that, and they have been looking for a little bit more of municipality feedback on what they'd like to include in their own stories to try and collaborate to help create some of them to kind of show off some certain heritage from different municipalities.
Thank you for the info.
Any other business? I have a question, Brandon, both for you, and one would be an update on the sign for Elsa Craig, given the 150 year and the July 27th weekend. Will that be there for that?
Unfortunately, it will not. We were told when we ordered that they would be able to meet that timeline. And then when it started in production, I believe Natalie reached out to their production manager who said just confirming that we're going to be on this. And I believe the salesperson maybe made a promise that the production team could not meet. So we're expecting it mid-August, unfortunately.
Okay. The other one would be in light of naming rights for the arena. Will that be taking place for the new season of hockey? And also then the follow-up with that happening, the scoreboard, the video board.
So the video board will go with first. It is scheduled to be middle of August install. It'll take them about a week. They believe they can meet the start of the season. It is a third-party company that produces their signage. So I'm not too concerned about them missing that timeline, but certainly if they do, it would be mid-September at the latest. So it should be in for the majority of the Stars season, as well as our minor hockey season. And then in terms of naming rights, I just got a draft from HMS Insurance on Monday with the rendering of what it would look like with North Middlesex logo still on the front. I'm satisfied that it still shows that we're a main factor of that. Yeah, so I'm hoping that for the start of the season, I know Darcy's chomping at the bit. All he's looking for is approval on the rendering, and then he will be ordering that sign and trying to get it up.
Perfect. Thank you. 2 out of 3. That's okay. Thanks. Any other business? No other business. Deferred items are in front. Communications, including county council. Any questions on county council? Councilor Nelson.
When are they going to begin construction on the new building?
It has not gone out to tender yet as far as to the contract. Last I heard, they were dealing with the city getting those things done, but I haven't heard that it's gone out to tender yet.
Okay.
But I think the idea is for the fall. That's when they want. Any other questions in the county? Seeing none, reading of the bylaws.
Thank you, your worship. That bylaws 52, 54, 55, and 56 be read first and second time.
Moved by Councilor Irwin, second by Councilor Canallison. All in favor? Carried.
That bylaws 37, 52, 54, 55, and 56 be read third and final time.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hodgins, seconded by Councilor Daigle. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we have no closed meeting, so move to adjourn. Councilor Irwin and Councilor Daigle.